Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. We have all seen the pictures of the breathtaking ancient site of Machu Picchu, and some of us have been lucky enough to visit and cross off the experience from our bucket list. Tucked away in the rocky countryside northwest of Cuzco, Peru, Machu Picchu is believed to have been a royal estate or sacred religious site for Inca leaders, whose civilization was virtually wiped out by Spanish invaders in the 16th century. For hundreds of years, until the American archaeologist Hiram Bingham stumbled upon it in 1911, the abandoned citadel's existence was a secret known only to those living in the area. Machu Picchu stretches over an impressive 5-mile distance, featuring more than 3,000 stone steps that link its many different levels. Today, hundreds of thousands of people visit the site every year, braving crowds and potential landslides to see the breathtaking sight of the sun setting over the towering stone monuments and marvel at the mysterious splendour of one of the world's most famous man-made wonders. But what do we actually know about it? The common misconception is that many think it is a very ancient site, but we are told that it was actually constructed between 1450 to 1460 AD, and it is thought to have been in use for around 80 years. So, in comparison to other ancient sites, such as the Pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge, Machu Picchu is a relatively recent construction. Or is it? Anybody who has visited the site or viewed the pictures of the incredible stonework can see that the Incas of the 15th century didn't build the site from scratch. There is indisputable evidence that it was built on top of a far more ancient site, a fact that mainstream historians tend to ignore. Just look at these incredible pictures, stills that I've taken from a video on Brian Forster's amazing YouTube channel, which I would advise you to subscribe to, by the way. There is a link in the description below. You can clearly see two distinct phases of building. The oldest phase is incredibly precise, intricately cut stonework that is put together with such accuracy that you can't even fit a playing card through the joints. Just look at the highly unusual shapes of the individual blocks. To fit them together so precisely is incredibly difficult to achieve, and the builders clearly had a more superior technology to what we know was available to the Incans in the 15th century. Just how did they cut the stones in such a way? Did they really use water and sand, or crude handsaws to create these incredible joints? Another very ancient feature of Machu Picchu is the famous Funerary stone, carved from one chunk of solid stone, and clearly part of something much bigger. It shows the same precision as the early stonework, as does the famous sundial, which I'm sure had something to do with Machu Picchu's location, and I believe this is something to do with astronomy. The mortar stones also look to be the remnants of a far older structure, and although mainstream historians tell us that all of these artefacts had some kind of religious meaning to the 15th and 16th century people, they clearly had a more practical function and belonged to the first ancient phase of Machu Picchu, a truly lost civilization, ignored by mainstream historians and one we know nothing about due to somewhat lazy interpretations of the archaeology. The cruder stonework that is built on top of that which is more precisely cut is clearly a lot younger and shows a regression in technological know-how. The stones also contain mortar between them, something that the older stonework doesn't need due to its tight-fitting, irregular jointed nature. Some so-called experts explain the strange paradox in stonework by saying that the precision-cut stones must be the more recent ones because it's the natural evolution of human history, progression. But this is impossible, as the advanced stonework is always found at the bottom, and if it's at the bottom, it's clearly older. Other researchers explain the stonework by saying that the 15th century builders simply gave up on the quality building techniques because it was taking too long and the task was too laborious. So they finished the site with far cruder methods. This, of course, is highly unlikely, and there is no evidence to suggest such an idea. In my opinion, the 15th century retreating Incans moved high into the hills and settled in the truly ancient, ruinous city of Machu Picchu and rebuilt it to house their civilization. There is no evidence to suggest that the 15th century Incans were able to craft and build the precision stonework that we see, so immaculately jointed that some estimate it can even withstand a 9.0 magnitude earthquake. Even though the city of Machu Picchu is often referred to as a citadel, it isn't a fortress, and there is no evidence to suggest it was ever built for military reasons by both the ancient and the 15th century civilizations that lived there. Yes, it is a very well defendable location, but it is also a great observational location. For those escaping the Spanish, it was an obvious place to retreat to and build upon, but for the original builders, it was a perfect location for observing the night sky. At 8,000 feet above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, you can't get much closer to the heavens than Machu Picchu. In fact, back in 2013, a research team led by Professor Marius from the University of Warsaw identified part of the structure as an astronomical observatory. The specific monument is called El Mirador, and it is no surprise that it is built using the superior, far more ancient cut stonework. It is one of 2 astronomical observatories identified at Machu Picchu. Some mainstream experts do, however, believe that the nearby city of Cuzco was constructed in such a way that it replicated the sky, and certain monuments point to specific astronomical bodies, such as the Pleiades constellation, which the Incas called 7 Kids. Interestingly, Cuzco also shows the same juxtaposition between precise ancient stonework and the cruder Incan stonework. Peruvian architecture is showing us that there was once a far more ancient pre-Incan civilization that, like many ancient civilizations around the world, paid great attention to the sky, a tradition that was clearly passed down through the generations, as we know that astronomy was also important to the Incan Empire. Many scholars believe that the Incas were a relatively primitive society, and they don't know how they acquired their astronomical knowledge as well as their amazing construction and architectural skills that are on show for us all to examine today. To me, it is clear there was once an earlier, more advanced, lost civilization. For all we know, it could be as old as the pyramids of Egypt, as Graham Hancock alludes to in his book Fingerprints of the Gods. But until archaeologists accept there are 2 phases of construction, we may never know the true history of Machu Picchu. Thank you for watching. This has been Matt at Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, please comment below, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.